let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is probably the second one. Yeah, because you can see the side switch. So let's do a couple. Let's do 3 from the beginning, and then 3 from actually, let's just watch the whole thing. Right. So here's when you watch replays, right? Especially if you're trying to look for like how you can improve overall, or just to figure anything out, it is really, really useful to watch your replays in a big chunk. Yo, thanks for hanging out, Gamer Talk. I see you, man. Respectful. I hope you have an excellent Wednesday afternoon. So when you watch replays, you kind of want to watch them in a big chunk, right? Because if you watch just one match, it can be kind of hard to figure things out that will like really, really help you in the long run, because you're not going to be able to see like the big patterns that you have in your play, right? I mean, of course you can watch one match to try to figure things out for matchups or try to figure things out for a specific situation. But if you watch your replays in like a big chunk, like a bajillion replays at once, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, you're going to be able to then see like, oh, wait a minute, I did this 3 games in a row, or I'm always doing this, or this always happens to me, this type of situation. And those big overarching patterns are probably the easiest thing to work on to like improve. So it's a lot easier to figure out where to start if you start with a big replay viewing session. Also, viewing your replays in a big chunk is kind of nice because you can make that like one session, if you play a match and then immediately watch the replay, you're probably still thinking about the match. You might have like some leftover emotions like, oh, that guy made me play really fast, or oh, I just couldn't get in, or wow, that guy really just let me do whatever. If you wait a day or so, right, or wait a few hours and then watch your replays in a dedicated session, you can kind of step back and look more objectively at your own gameplay, right? You can kind of remove yourself and observe from a distance, which can help you be more appropriately critical of yourself, right? Because sometimes I know personally, if I play a match and like, let's say for example, I play a match versus like Blanka, right? And then Blanka hits me with some criminal shenanigan, right? I'm livid. I'm like, oh my god, Blanka players, bro, just digesting Elmer's glue and math. Oh, I hate Blanka. That was so obnoxious. And then if I try to watch the replay, it's like, I'm not in the right headspace. So I definitely recommend as an approach, like right off the bat, have gameplay sessions. If you play like 2 or 3 hours a day or whatever, so many days a week, take one of those sessions and just turn it into watching replays. And it's like super Gucci, I think that's a good strat. So what we're going to do here is we have a set of first to 10, right? We're going to look them over just at 2 times speed to begin with, right? We're going to try to look and see some general patterns, right? Just overarching things like, I don't know, was I always in the corner? Did I jump a lot? Did I mainly use fireball, or did they mainly jump at me? Just big general patterns. If we watch it at 2x speed, we can find those, and that can help us find something to hone in on. And then we'll go back and look at what out of those general things we want to get the specifics on. Then we'll go back, break down the situations, maybe open up training mode if we need to. After you explore those situations, right, you want to say, okay, what do I want to focus on? Like, okay, I found X, Y, Z amount of things, right? Like, I watched my replays. I found 5 things, right? But if you try to go into a match and say, okay, I'm going to practice thing 1, practice thing 2, practice thing 4, 5, that's a lot to practice. And I don't know about any of you guys, but I certainly cannot do that, right? So you kind of only really want to pick one thing at a time to work on. Like, okay, I see that my opponent had cornered me a lot because I walked backwards an excessive amount. I'm going to play 4 or 5 games and just focus only on not walking backwards an excessive amount. Just like a theoretical example, right? If you work on one thing at a time, it's much easier to develop the skills to handle situations and like the mental capacity to be able to process those situations easily. What else before we begin about just watching replays in general? Watch replays a big chunk. Look for general patterns. Once you find those general patterns, look and break down the situation. Don't hesitate to use training mode to simulate that situation. And once you figure out what you want, try to only focus on 1 or 2 things at a time, improving it. And you want to try to find practical ways to approach things, right? You want to, for yourself, list down like, okay, well, I see my opponent always jumped and I let them jump at me, right? You want to say like, okay, well, I'm going to play 5 matches and I'm going to focus on anti-airs specifically, right? 5 matches, specifically anti-airs, things like that, right? Ken Mains. I see you, Zaku. What's up? Welcome back, man. You want to try to focus on things specifically. And when you're practicing, I think a lot of people, all of us, all fighting game players, really, we lose track of this. Fighting games involve a bajillion different skills, right? There's all these different skill sets you need, and it's not really a linear process, right? Like, it's not like, okay, if I learned how to do this, I've mastered it, and then next I go to this. It's really a non-linear thing. So you can be really good at one thing and not very good at another, and still excel or still have trouble based on that, right? So if you playing, you just go, okay, I'm gonna win. I'm just gonna play to win with the goal of winning. You're probably just gonna lean into whatever you're really good at, and sure, you'll get better at that thing, but your weaknesses will be left behind. So it's really important that when you're playing and practicing, trying to improving, you have a specific goal in mind to practice and play, right? It's like when you go to the gym. When you go to the gym, you don't just go in and say, oh, I'm going to get swole, right? Or, oh, I'm going to get buff, or I'm going to get tone or whatever. You go, okay, well, on Wednesday, I'm going to do my arms. On, Friday, I'm going to do legs. On this day, I'm going to walk or do cardio or whatever, right? You have a specific goal in mind. And all of those goals will eventually come together to make the whole thing, right? So that's what we're going to do. Look for general patterns. Pick out some of the things that are most glaring for us. And pick out 1 or 2. And then try to come up with a way to practice those 1 or 2 things specifically, right? Now, when you're looking at stuff, if as like a final note, if you feel completely lost, like if you're looking at your replays and you're just like, well, I don't know what to do, right? That can happen, especially if you have like a really close match with someone. You're like, I don't know what to do different. Then it's maybe a good idea to look at your strengths also. Like, okay, what did I do well? What am I good at? How can I make that better? Because if you get stuck and you're like, I don't know where to start, you looking at your strengths, you already know about those things, so it's going to give you something to latch onto, and then you can follow that. Like, oh, well, I was doing really good at zoning them, or I was doing really good at you know, throwing them over and over repeatedly on my offense. How can I make that even better? And since you already know how to do those things, you can start to get an idea. That's one way to start if you feel like, oh, well, I don't know at all, I'm lost. You can look at your strengths as well. So it's important to not only list down like, okay, I did this poorly, this poorly, this poorly. You also want to go, oh, I did this well, I did this well, and I did this well too. Anyway, let's begin. This is what I believe to be set 2, replay number 1. We're just gonna watch it at 2x speed, and we're just gonna look for stuff we see. I'm gonna turn on the hitbox viewer in case we need to pause it. So it's Ken versus Honda. Depending on what V skill Honda has, can really dictate whether or not Ken can throw his projectile here. And if Honda doesn't have the anti-projectile V skill, he can kind of get mushed by the projectile. If I was playing this match, that'd be the first thing I'd look for. Always turn attack data and key display on. And all right, fireball. He jumped. A lot of fireball. More jumps. A lot of air approach from old Hander. We're in the middle of the screen a lot. I noticed that too. Headbutts. Okay, so one of the first things I notice just from this is opponent jumping. So let's I'm gonna write that down. Okay, now when we're listing general notes, like I said before, we're just listing things we see, just any kind of pattern we see, any generality we see straight up. We're not really worried about whether it's good or bad or whatever. We're just listing generalities. So headbutt on block a lot. We see mid screen a lot. Okay, let's watch the second one. We're just 2xing it just to get a general idea of what's going on here. I wish this game loaded faster. Okay. Fireballs. Dos go away. Dos go away. Oh, that was good. Okay. I noticed there's not a lot of combos. Not a lot of combos. A lot of butt slam. A lot of butt slam. Okay, V trigger 2. Oh, we're in the corner. This is like the first time. Okay. Honda wins. Okay, we went to the corner there. So far I notice a lot of jumps from the opponent, a lot of butt slam, a lot of headbutts on block, a lot of fireball, and I notice we're in the mid screen a lot. Yo, what's up, Mofazni? I see you, man. What's good? Looking at replays. Now I know this seems like really general, but what we're doing is we're looking for overall overarching patterns, and then we're just gonna narrow it down. All right. Looking at overall gameplay stuff here. There's another jump. Okay. Another butt slam. Okay. I also noticed that Ken has V trigger 2 and V skill 2. This matchup. Oh, a combination. Overhead. Okay. So
Not bad. That's what I was looking for. Round 2.
okay. Hadouken. V skill. Go score. Butt slam again. Okay. Trigger 2. Unblockable from Honda. Ken was careless. I have the voices in English for some reason. My inner weeaboo is crying out for me to change them to weeaboonese. Oh, okay. I noticed some DPs, but not a lot of DPs. Shmi X, B skill 2. Butt slam. B skill 2 again. Okay. Alright, let's on to the next. English voice Ken is awful, you think? I like it when he goes, Hadouken! That one's good. I'm writing some notes in the document. So again, this is the process. We just 2x here. I notice starting out with a fireball a lot too. That's something to look at. Okay. Aw. Oh, unblockable. He's skill 2.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Round 2. Fight.
Fireball will start out fireball attempt, probably that was. Standing medium punch. V reversal. Okay.
Final round. Fight.
I noticed there's a lot of round 3 so far. 2. Go score! Okay, V trigger 2. Conversions. V trigger 2 conversions. Oop, I paused it by mistake. Okay. Hadouken. Ken's staying kind of far away. Okay. Ooh, command grab. I noticed that too. I think in the Honda matchup, Honda is one of the characters where you kind of get away with staying really far away from him. But again, we're just looking and listing out general things we see, right? Just any kind of pattern we're looking at. Anything we see happen over and over. This is so this is a process to like look at overall gameplay stuff. Not so much matchup specific stuff. If you're looking at just matchup specific stuff, I mean, it's nice to have a bunch of replays, but you can do that with like just 2 or 3. And matchup specific stuff, of course, you want to fight the same character over and over again, right? Okay. So I noticed with that V-Trigger 2, the conversion was the same every time, or the attempt was the same every time. I noticed that as V-Trigger 2 into the heavy hurricane kick, whether it anti-airs or not. So there's something we could say about that there. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to speed it up that fast. Still a lot of butt slam. More uppercuts. Sweep. Okay. V-Trigger 2 follow-up. Again. Block pressure. I noticed that Ken doesn't seem to be comboing Honda a lot. This might be from pressure sequences. Lacking / block pressure. Okay. This one goes to round 3 as well. If a lot of the rounds go to round 3, like say for example you win the first game, but then win the first game, lose the second game, or lose the first round, lose, on off. It could somebody changed their play style or somebody did something different, right? There was something that changed. You can kind of look if like, oh, am I over adapting? Am I switching up from what was working, or is the opponent figuring me out, right? Okay. I see still a lot of fireball. Honda's jumping now. Over the fireball more, but there's still a lot of butt slam. Okay, those goys. After we block Honda's headbutt, what do we do? Okay.
That was glorious. Round 2. Fight.
Okay, I think this is a fireball attempt. I paused it here to look at the inputs. This is looks like a fireball attempt right here. Right where I'm circling the mouse. And when Ken whiffs fierce, it's usually a fireball attempt from the Ken player. And then there's immediate butt slam from the Honda player. Round start stuff. Okay. Still a lot of butt slams. Those goys. Okay, the unblockable. Before I noticed that unblockable is just getting charged up on. Okay. Oh. Okay. That was another sequence on block. That was a little bit weird. Okay. Jumperooskies. Let's go. Butt slam. Ken is retreating a lot. I noticed that. So Ken is retreating a lot. So this is not something that's really happening in these replays, but I'd like to point this out as to how this method of looking replays can help us figure out how to work through like the chain of events, or like how to fix or look at certain situations. So we see Ken retreating a lot in these replays, right? We're just fast forwarding through them to get a general idea of what's going on, and we see Ken backing up a lot. If we also saw that Ken was losing the round in the corner a lot, or the rounds where there's a lot of the corner happening, right? We could, when we look back at our notes after fast forwarding through the replays, we could see that, oh, Ken was backing up a lot. A lot of the rounds ended up in the corner. okay, let's look at that situation. We can go into a replay and we can go, oh, okay, those two things go together, right? Ken was retreating, which would then lead to him being in the corner, and that would lead to something else, right? That's not happening in this specific situation, but that's like, you know, that's what is what this is helping us to kind of find those things like that, right? Or you could see like, oh, every game is going to round 3, and then you could also see like, oh, well, run always for 1 round the person did this, so maybe that's something we don't know how to handle. Maybe we changed up our strategy unnecessarily, things like that. So let's just keep looking, right? And the more we see a specific pattern, the more we want to look into it, right? Like, for example, there's a lot of butt slams going uncontested, right? We see mad butt slam. We can look into that. We see a lot of headbutt situation, right? We can look into how that's getting handled. Okay, fireball up close. We also see a lot of times Ken will get block pressure, but it will never result into a combo or a throw. So we can also look into that, right? Those seem to be the most consistent patterns I see so far, but we still have to, you know, just scrub through everything. Is this on 2? Yeah, it's on 2. How do I get... Okay, a lot of fireball too. We can look at that as well. Butt slams. Seeing a lot of close-up hard kick too. Close-up stand hard kick. Close-up SHK from Ken. Okay. Good old Quaneth. If you look really carefully at Ken's victory screen, he has 2 extra teeth. Ken is a mutant. He has more teeth than a human person would have. Don't ask me how I figured that out. Oh, yeah. Okay. We also want the inputs on to keep an eye on the inputs. Like, one thing we saw is like sometimes there's an input error on fireball. What are we doing when we fall on the ground with our inputs? You know. Here's something I see. Here's something let me take a step back here. What's the step back button? Here we go. Okay, look at this. Do you see? Look at Ken's inputs. Right? Look at the medium punch and the hard kick. This is a common thing you see players do, which can make execution adversely or unnecessarily more difficult. Right? This medium punch comes out as medium punch, a little bit, medium punch, right? The 2 of them that look like they're in a row. All right. And then we see hard kick, hard kick, hard kick. If we look at the inputs as we go through, we can see a lot of the inputs are double, triple, or even sometimes quadrupled up, right? This is a sign that the player isn't really like double tapping, right? There's an input technique that you call double tapping, but this is a sign that the player is going button, 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 button. And that can actually make doing combos harder for you. You see how there's 3 medium punches, 3 medium kicks, right? You see button, 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 button. That's something we can talk about in a second too. So lots of mashing to get buttons out. Okay. I'm gonna put some stars in the notes to help me follow along. We're just looking for general patterns that we see, and then after we have scrubbed through all the replays, we're just gonna see if any of the patterns connect, or we're gonna pick some ones that we seem interested in or like seem the most significant, and then we're going to explore those situations to try to figure out how we can improve as a player here. So we're just looking for anything. Good, bad, just anything you notice. We're just looking for multiple patterns. We have a lot of replays here, so it's actually really good, but it will take a little bit of time. The more replays you have, generally the better. 99-second fireball. Again. Okay. Let's write that down. I don't know. Ending. I notice a lot of the block strings end with regular fireball. Okay.
Round 2.
Sherry Rebel. Okay. We're still in the middle of the screen a lot too. Still butt slam. Still headbutt. I noticed not a lot of throws. We saw some throws. Like, we see some, but not a lot of throws. Let's write that down too. What did he say? Not a lot of throwing or tick throwing. There's some, but not a lot. Maybe that's something we can look into. Because before we saw that, like, okay, a lot of Ken's block pressure is not resulting in combos or Honda getting tossed, right? So if we see not a lot of throws, maybe throw is not an option that's getting considered here. There's a really strong relationship between frame trap and tick throw, and throw bait, of course. So maybe that's something also we're gonna look into. I think there's only 1 or 2 left.
Round 1. Fight.
A lot of fireball at the start too. I see that. Those goys. A lot of headbutts. Jab, jab. Okay. A lot of stand medium punch. Sweeper Ruski. Add the whole sets. Yeah. That would be really nice. So dream feature for Street Fighter. Honestly, Street Fighter should just copy everything StarCraft 2 did. StarCraft 2 does everything perfectly. Amazing game. It's also free. It's really good. Perfect menus. Perfect everything. Perfect ladder. Okay. Shinryuken is an anti-air. Okay. That's a big thing I can see right there. Okay. Okay, we got 3 left. We got a lot. We actually see a lot of things that are written down here. We'll go over this in a sec, and then we'll start narrowing it down.
Round 1. Fight.
There it is again. We see this again. That fireball. Okay. Block strings ending in regular fireball a lot. EX butt. Oh, that was a good autocorrect Doskoi.
Round 2.
Autocorrect Doskoi? We got those? Oh, that's too fast. Too fast. I know how to work these controls. I've streamed before. I know. I've played this game. Okay. Oh, Lupe Shiryu. Let's take a short back. Let's look at that Lupe Shiryu there. Doubling up, tripling up on the inputs there. Okay. Yeah, there again, we can see it. Here, let me slow this down. Let me slow this down. This is probably one of the most important things going on in the replay here. That we can immediately look at Ken's inputs for this block string, right? So the block string here is jab, crouch, medium punch, right? That's the block string we're doing, which is a good block string, but look at the inputs, right? Jab, 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 medium punch, medium punch, medium punch, right? That's something that everybody does. Everybody does that in the beginning, right? Everybody does that at one point in time or another. Okay, let's double it up. B reversal, okay.
Honda wins.
Okay, we got 2 more. Also, another thing we want to look at too, right? It's because we're just looking for general patterns. You want to see if like the round ended with CA or EX or something like that. That's also something to consider, because like you could say like, oh well, he's catching me with this specific move or super this way, can lead you to discovering situations that constantly happen. Okay. Okay. A lot of close-up roundhouse. A lot of headbutt. B-skill 2. Shim overhead. B reversal. Okay.
Sure is a wide world. Round 2. Fight.
Okay. Less fireballs. As the set has gone on, I see less and less fireball. Oh. Butt slam. Honda's using butt slam a lot to approach. Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to watch it again.
Round 1. Fight.
Fireball attempt right there. All right. Oop. Last one here. Let's see. I anticipate a lot of butt slam. 99-second fireball. Most block strings ending with a regular fireball. And Honda doing a lot of headbutts that go away. Okay. Butt slam. Retreating. Headbutt. Okay. So the response after headbutt is not bad, but there's no follow-up to it. That's one thing I'm noticing here. Okay, V-skill 2. Oh, a throw? Okay. Hello again. Okay. Okay. So at the end there, Ken died from moving, trying to approach our block strings and block pressure. All right, this is probably where we're gonna look at first. All right, so check this out. This is what we got. This is what I got from just walking over those, right? I noticed that the opponent is getting away with going to the air, right? After they do a fireball or just in general, right? I noticed there's a lot of headbutts on block, right? The match is mostly in the mid-screen, starting with a fireball a lot. I noticed not a lot of combos. I noticed a lot of butt slam again. V-trigger 2, oops. V-trigger 2, V-skill 2, V-trigger 2 conversions. A lot of going to the final round. This in the beginning, not so much overall. We can kind of get rid of that. Okay. Ken staying kind of far away. Yeah. Ken is retreating a lot. These things go together. Pressure sequences lacking block pressure. Close-up stand hard kick. This is important because this move is punishable, but we don't really need to worry about this right now. I don't think. I didn't notice it as like an overall pattern. 9-second fireball a lot. A lot of mashing buttons to get. A lot of block strings and with regular fireball. Shinryuken is an AA. So we have V-trigger 2 from Ken. Shinryuken is an AA. Not a lot of combos. Starting with fireball. I noticed that twice. Mid-screen a lot. So let's get rid of some of these. Not a lot of throwing, tick throwing. This goes with the block pressure. Block pressure here. I'm just organizing my thoughts here. Again, we just scrubbed through the replays really quick to try to find general patterns, right? And these general patterns, I'm just, putting the little notes together to help me figure out what is the most obvious thing to work on. Now, this can help you find out the most obvious thing, but not necessarily the most important thing. So we do have to do a little bit of thinking. Mashing. Buttons. VG2 conversions. V-skill 2 from Ken. V-trick 2. Alright. Starting with a lot of fireball. 9-second fireball, not a lot of combos. V-skill 2. Okay. Where's the underscore? Oh, it's hidden in the... Yes. Alright, so there's a lot to watch here. Now, generally, if I was only watching maybe 2 or 3 replays, I would go into each replay and watch each round at normal speed, right? But this is a lot, and I think we found some important and kind of easy things to latch onto. So we don't really... I don't think we need to worry about this, but if you were really like, if you're doing this yourself, I'd recommend at least going into a couple games and watching them slowly. But here are the things I'm going to talk about. We don't really need to enter the game specifically to discuss them. So I'm just going to remove this section. So let's first talk about... This is sort of matchup specific. Let's talk about the block strings, right? Let's just pick any replay. Let's just pick any replay. And we'll look at some of Ken's block strings. And then we'll just go into training mode and try to find some alternatives. So one of the things that's happening here is that Ken is having a lack of opportunities to either like exploit Okazeme or even really just hit Honda, right? We can see these block strings from Ken. All right, if we get a block string. Oh, he's dashing. Are we gonna get a block string here? Oh no. Okay, maybe in the next round. I picked the wrong replay. We see a lot of these block strings from Ken ending with just regular fireball at a spacing that's actually unsafe, right? But this is also another example too. Look at this block pressure here, right? That was a fireball attempt. Right here. This is an attempted fireball. You see the crouch medium kick, and then we can see what looks like to start to be the start of a quarter circle. We just missed it. Now, as far as execution goes, we just gotta, it's literally just a matter of practice. But there are some things here you need to be conscious of. All right, let me go into the training mode and explain the execution first, and then we'll talk about the block strings. Because the execution is the easiest to explain out of all of this. All right. So when you perform a move, when you pilot your character in this game, firstly, when you input a command, you already know what's going to come out, right? When you input the command, you know what it's going to do, right? You know what to expect. It does the same command every time, right? And when you input a complex command, you know what it's going to do, and you want to do it as slowly as possible. There is no need to rush, right? If you try to do your inputs really quickly and you learn to do them really quickly, because the game has input leniency, it will give you what you want, but you'll have inputted it in a sloppy way, which can work against you when you start needing to perform advanced techniques that involve like input shortcuts and things like that, and tricky combos and stuff, right? So when you do, like, let's say you want to do this block string, you want to do down jab, down medium punch, fireball, right? This is the block string you want for any given reason, right? You do this. You only need to jab, medium, fireball. You don't need to... There's no reason to rush, right? This just makes it way harder to actually do the thing. You're working against yourself by pressing the buttons multiple times. This is something that's like actually really difficult to break as a habit. I think most players start this way. Most players start out like that. When you first pick up a fighting game, this is what you want to do. And if you pay conscious attention to this, you might even find yourself pressing the buttons or holding down on the directions abnormally hard. Like you're using a lot of strength to do this. This actively makes it more difficult to do what you want. Like, this makes it harder for the character to do what you want. So what I would say here is just try to be conscious of this and slow down, right? Take a deep breath and just, relax. And yeah. I did this, right? Everybody does this. You do this. Zaku did this. Doc did this. You as a Miss Patricia did this, right? Everyone begins by doing this, and you really want to just you have to like break the habit consciously, because this will get in your way, especially once you advance to a level where you need to start doing things like cross cut, or you need to do input shortcuts, right? Or any kind of fancy technique. Learning to control and pilot the character this way makes it right? If you mash, right, you might think that this helps you like link or put your combos together, but it actually actively works against you, right? So just slow down and don't rush, right? That's really the advice I have here. Is just you want to input everything as slowly as possible, right? Because if you say, for example, I want to do this in a super and I just mash, let's look at my super input here, right? Look at my input for super. So you can see the punch for fireball is down here, and I mashed it. I got down, back, down, down, forward, right? I got a quarter circle here. I got another quarter circle here. Then I went to up. Then I did forward, down, forward, forward, up, and then kick, right? Street Fighter V is a very forgiving game, but if I mash, that's a sign that, like, this is not helping me, right? Even though I did get what I wanted my character to do, this is working against me, because if something happens or I don't mash consistently in the same way every time, I'm gonna, right? Or if I need to do like an advanced technique, like an example of where this is really important is if I do a combo like this. Oops, he's blocking the first hit. If I do a combo like this, right, I have to wait and cancel the second hit to get the most damage, right? So if I do, even my inputs are garbage, right? You see them? But you want to try to do it cleanly and slowly, right? A combo like this, you want to wait, because if you just cancel the first hit, or if you just mash, right, you might not get your super cancel. Or there, I'll cancel the first hit because I'm rushing myself. I'm rushing, making my inputs messy. Now I'm missing out on damage now, right? Or something like this, where you need to go from back to quarter circle, right? The game's input leniency can work against you sometimes, right? It is really generous, but ideally you want to input everything as slowly as possible so you have the cleanest, crispiest execution. And the first place to start with that is, you know that when you hit medium punch, it's going to come out like this. It's going to come out the same every time. So the game has accepted the command. You know what's going to happen. There's no need to rush. Really, my main tip there is just slow down, you know? So, let's see. Focus on slowing down execution inputs. Rushing and mashing the buttons or the directions can result in unintended inputs happening and can lead to bad habits that make it more difficult to learn advanced techniques when the time comes. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's like the easiest thing we can talk about that I really noticed is Miss Patricia was hitting the buttons a lot in a row, right? But the thing is, you really actually don't need to rush. The game is very generous, right? And now, I'll tell you straight up. I will tell you straight up. My execution is really bad, personally. Like, my execution is really bad. But this tip, like, just do everything slowly. This is gonna help you, right? It helped me, right? Like, now I can confidently do everything every time I want. I never really mess anything up, even though my execution is like extra trash. And the way I did that is I just went into training mode and I said, okay, I'm just gonna do this sequence. I'm just gonna do this combo 3 times on both sides, and I want my execution to do as slowly as possible, right? So nice and slow, and just nice and slow. Just try to go like a super slow. If it doesn't come out, only a little bit faster, right? Just super slow every time. And look at the inputs on the screen, and make sure that they look good and clean. You want to be able to look at the input display, the history, and tell what happened, right? So like, for example, if I did this, right, and you look at this input display here, if you look at these inputs here, right, these ones here, can you tell what happened? It's really hard, right? So we have forward, kick, 2 kicks, and then this, and maybe this could be an EX Hurricane kick because we see a quarter circle here, then we see this, but it's like impossible to tell what happened, right? But if we look at this, right, now we know like, okay, there's a down medium punch, back medium punch, hard punch, EX hurricane kick, right? We can read the history. That's a good way to know if your inputs are generally clean, right? So just try to go slowly. Make sure you can read the input history. Make sure your inputs are clean. So that's a practical thing we can practice, right? So let's write that down. One of the things we can practice is go into training mode for 5 or 10 minutes, and just practice doing combos or block strings on either side of the screen. Input the commands as slowly as possible and use the input history display to ensure that your inputs are as clean as they can be, right? One of the things I would recommend specifically to you, Miss Patricia, is to do quarter circle fireballs. 10 of these, maybe 3, 4, how many ever you want. Just try to get the fireball input to look like this, right? Just super clean fireball input, and go and do them slow. Don't rush. You don't need to do this. Just as slow as you can get them, and then you'll be able to do them quickly over time. But you want to learn how to do them properly first. Speed comes later. I think a lot of people think they need to rush. You don't need to rush. The game is kind to you, and you already know what all your characters' moves look like, what they already do, and you know that when you press the button, the move is gonna come out. Don't need to rush. Don't need to second guess yourself. Just practice this in training mode, right? Just this. Maybe practice a block string or two, right? Combo maybe, right? Just try to go as slow as you can. Both sides of the screen, 5 or 10 minutes. You know, this is something specific to practice. All right, what is another thing we noticed, right? So this is matchup specific. This is strategic. This relates to the block pressure. Okay. So these things here are matchup specific and strategic. Let's save these for later. Let's explain and talk about the block strings here, right? The block strings are a little strategic, but one of the reasons you're not getting a lot of damage on the opponent is because the pressure sequences you're choosing to do are pretty much giving up your turn, and you're not really mixing up the pressure sequences in a threatening way, right? So I'm gonna use the basic relationship between frame trap, tick throw, and throw bait to try to suggest some ways that you can enhance your offense, right? Because, you know, we really noticed that Honda was not getting comboed a lot, right? Like, Honda wasn't getting comboed a lot. Almost all the block strings were ending with a regular fireball or a fireball attempt, and there was not a lot of throwing, right? So if you're not getting damage, you need to find yourself an opportunity. You're probably going to find it really hard to have an opportunity if your offensive sequences aren't particularly potent. And so here's some basic things, right? We see you doing this block string. This is not a bad block string, but you need to be careful about the spacing here, because this fireball is punishable on block, right? This fireball is unsafe. It's -8, right? But if you push them far enough away, they'll have trouble punishing it. So I would just be careful doing this up close, like this or something like that, right? But more in general, something you can work on is establishing your block pressure and then mixing in throw or throw bait, right? So say we set up a pattern. Say we're just doing this, right? We're just doing this. We don't want to worry about the unsafe fireball, right? We do this 2 or 3 times, right? Now we're watching to see what Honda is doing, right? So we know all about this block string. We know it's a frame trap. We know the position they're going to slide back to. We know what buttons are going to come out, right? We play Ken. We've seen this 1,000 times. What's Honda doing though, right? We want to observe his reaction to the stimulus we give him, right? We're giving him a pattern of something. We're giving him some information. How's he responding to this? We just do this and then we block, right? If he chooses to sit still, right, we can then move forward, right? If we move forward and he sits still, we can threaten him with throw, right? If we move forward and he interrupts us, he tries to press us with a button, right? Then obviously we can threaten him with another frame trap. We can do this, right? After we've observed, like, oh, okay, I try to walk forward and he hit me. So now I'm going to do this because I'm going to frame trap him, right? And when we frame trap him, if he gets hit, we can convert that into a special move like a fireball or a hurricane kick or something. And we may discourage him from pressing again, right? Which then causes him to have a different response, which we can see. So either he sits still or he tries to move back. If he sits still, we can threaten him with throw again, right? And we cash out and we just do it again. If he moves back, we punish him with positioning because now we push him closer to the corner, right? You see what I'm getting at here? There's a relationship between these because to defend against this, you need to contest, right? So he either needs to hit throw to tech your throw, or he needs to press a button, right? Which leaves him vulnerable to a frame trap, right? And once we start hitting him with the frame traps, that cashes out for us. Great. We knock him down. We can go for something like that again. If he doesn't bite on the frame trap, well, then we can walk up and threaten the throw. If we see that he's teching, right, to advance the situation more, if we see that he's throwing back, we don't have to walk all the way. We can just walk a little and walk backwards. Move the camera, I'm sorry. We can walk a little and walk backwards. This is a shimmy, right? This is a throw bait. We know that us walking forward encourages him to throw. If he chooses to attack instead of pressing a button, then we retreat. Now we can whiff punish the throw, right? You can even get even more tricky with that mix-up by doing stopping your pressure early and staggering, right? This is stagger pressure, right? This is just the simplest example of it, stagger pressure, right? We don't always need to end our block strings with a special like a fireball or something like that. We can use this stimulus we give the opponent to, like, we can create a pattern, right? You see, and then observe what he's doing, and that will give us room to work, right? If you find it really hard, like, how do I open this guy up, right? You need to create room for yourself to work, right? So every action we take is giving the opponent some information. They are going to have a reaction to that, right? No matter, even if they stand still and do nothing, that's still a reaction to the stimulus we gave them, right? We can use that to our advantage. So when you're doing your pressure, right, you want to say, okay, I'm going to do this twice, or maybe I'm going to do this 3 times, and I'm going to see what he does. And then based on what he does, I'm just going to go for a counter, right? So if he stops us from walking forward with a button, we can go for a frame trap, or we could do something like a crush counter, right? You've seen that. We can try to, or we could even try to whiff punish him, right? We could say, oh, I'm going to walk back, wait for your button to come out, and we're going to whiff punish you with this move, right? Or if he sits still, if he chooses to play defense via attrition instead of contesting you, right? Now you can abuse forward throw, right? Now you can abuse throw. And if he chooses to play defense via evasion, right? He tries to evade. You can just punish him with positioning. He gets closer to the corner, right? This is something that I saw that you were not doing. That is something you want to think about and figure out how to implement, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with ending some of your block strings in a special, right? You don't always need to constantly do staggered pressure, constantly be in the opponent's face. You can actually just, let the fireball go as long as it's not too close and he can't punish you. And now you have room to work here too. But you want to be cognizant of really what you're trying to achieve when you take an action, right? It seems to me, in general, it seems almost as if like, okay, maybe you don't really have a super thought out game plan versus Honda or versus the player you're playing against, right? And what I mean by a game plan is just knowing the situation you want to put yourself in, right? Where do you want to be on the screen? What do you want to be close? Do you want to be far away? Do you want to be at a middle distance, right? Do you want to have Honda on the floor, right? What is the game plan here? What is the situation we're trying to pursue? And this is a little bit off the topic of the offense in particular, but what is the situation we're trying to pursue? You just want to think of a situation you want to be in. That could be a lot of things, right? You could be far away, zoning him. You could be rushing him down, whatever. You want to find that situation you want to be in and think about ways that you can get yourself to that situation, right? So, for example, with our offense, let's say we want to be on top of Honda, right? We want to knock him down. Well, one of the things we could do is we could do our block string, right? We could do our block string and then stagger pressure, right? This is how these things lead together. We can stagger pressure. We're looking for the response to this, right? If he's just sitting there, all right, cool, we'll go for a throw. The throw doesn't directly lead us to what we want, but it's going to open up the opportunity, because if he takes 9 throws, he takes 15, 20 throws, he's going to die, right? Eventually, he will have to deal with this. Now we're going to have room to work by seeing how he deals with our walk-up throw, right? If he tries to press a button and interrupt us, sweet. We get the whiff punish into a special move, right? Let's say we hit a button and he does this. Now we get Okazeme, and now we get a chance to be on top of us, and we can loop the situation again, right? If he chooses to tech the throw, right, we can, instead of walking all the way forward, we can just walk back, whiff punish the throw, boom. Now we get Oki. We're in the situation we want, right? That's like a really simple example, and you can have a lot like, oh, I want to be this distance from Honda at almost all times, or I want to make sure he's blocking my fireball. You can really choose any kind of situation you want as a basis of your game plan. But if you start with like, okay, I want to be in this type of situation, it narrows down the decisions you have to make and can really help you get a firm grasp of what kind of things you want to do in the match, right? It'll help you tighten up your gameplay, just need a simple game plan, right? I can talk more about that, but I don't want to get too off topic with this pressure, right? Because it seems like, you're doing this, you want to open them up. A way you can enhance this is to mix in forward movement and stagger, right? Because there's a strong relationship between staggered pressure, tick throw, right? Tick throw, and throw bait, right? These things go together. If the opponent doesn't challenge your walk forward, again, I know I'm harping on this a lot, but again, if the opponent doesn't challenge your walk forward, you get to cash out with the throw, or you could do this again, right? Or you could just keep staggering them. You could do this all the way across the screen if they let you. Of course, they're not going to try to let you, right? And if you see them walking backwards, you just get to punish them by walking them down to the corner, which is a great position to be in. Being in the corner is the best position, or having your opponent in the corner is the best position you could really be in. And if they choose to contest with throwing, now you get the opportunity to throw bait them, right? You want to think about these 3 things when you're putting on your offense, right? How can I open my opponent up? Well, you could start with stagger pressure, see their response to the stagger, and then counter appropriately, right? Let's see. Let's look at the document again. So let's I'm gonna recommend going into training mode and finding a sequence of normals on block that you like. Could be jab, 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 jab down medium, jab, back medium, jab, 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 stand short, whatever that you like. Find ways to approach the opponent after doing that block string. See how you can throw them. If you can stagger into another normal, or and how you can frame trap them with that block string. I know this is a little bit vague, but this is just like general strategic things to think of. Consider when in the block sequence you can consider at what point in the block string you can move forwards to threaten tick throw or get a better position to stagger them again. Right, you see a lot of people do this. A lot of chem players do this. A lot of people's offense is based around stagger pressure, and it's because it's really easy to implement. It's like also powerful. It works, right? Now, if you only have staggered pressure as a type of offense, then that can lead to its own problems. But we're not really worried about that yet. We're just worried about getting this functioning, getting this pressure working, right? So recommendation is explore ways to stagger pressure the opponent and implement tick throws into your game. Try to explore the relationship between stagger pressure, tick throw, and throw bait. All right. And then, okay. Let's talk about having a general game plan again. I feel like I could clarify on that. It seems like you have some decent ideas of what you want to be going for, but you're kind of mixing between a lot of things, and I think it's getting you into situations where you're not exactly in the driver's seat a lot, right? So I saw you backing up and throwing fireballs, and then sometimes I saw you attempting to put on pressure, right? Like you would at times walk forward and attempt to put pressure, and you would at other times intentionally walk back to throw the fireball, and it looked like you're setting up for the uppercut, which is actually really, really decent. Like that's actually good. Like these things, the ideas you have are functional ideas, but the execution is just a little bit off, making them not work out, right? And by execution, I mean like the performance of the strategy. So, excuse me. To start off, in Street Fighter, there's a million zillion things you can do, right? I could be aggressive. I could be defensive. I could try to overwhelm the opponent by going really, really fast. or I could try to, get them into. They're just so I could do jab, I could do light kick, medium kick, I could backdash, I could forward dash, I could neutral jump, I could jump at them, I could jump backwards. There's so much you could do. How do you pick? Like what? How do you know what to do? Right? There's a million options, and a lot of the times, many of those options will work in many situations. Right? There's not exactly one right answer, one right way to do anything. It's all really dependent on the context. The way you narrow down what you want to do is by just picking up a simple game plan, setting yourself a simple game plan, and finding sequences that will lead and advance you towards that plan, right? So here's a really simple example. Let's say that I want to keep Honda away from me, right? Like maybe I want to keep Honda at this distance on the screen or something like that, right? Well, I certainly wouldn't be walking forward, jumping forward, dashing, or running at him to do that, right? So now already those options are cut off. I'm not worried about doing this. I'm not worried about doing this. I'm not worried about any of this stuff, right? I'll just walk back, right? Walk back, get to that position. If he walks forward, I can throw my fireball to push him a little bit backwards, try to keep him in that spot, right? If he jumps at me, I could probably... if he jumps at me, I could uppercut him out of the air, right? And he's going to fall back. After I uppercut him, if my game plan is to keep him far away, I don't need to take advantage of the Oki if my game plan is to keep him far away. I can just I would be taking advantage of the knockdown advantage, but I don't need to run up to him and do a meaty attack. I can still stay away, right? I want to pick options that feed into my game plan. I want to pick my game plan and really stick to that, right? And hey, wait a minute. Look here, there's a relationship between my fireball and my uppercut, right? If I throw the fireball at him, well, he can't move forward. If he wants to advance, he has to go up over the fireball, or he has to go through the fireball in some way. So if he jumps, I get to DP him. Then he falls backwards, and then I get to do my situation again, right? Same thing as if, say, I wanted to get Honda on the floor. I wanted to land heavy hurricane kick against Honda, right? Or anybody, right? So if I want to land my heavy hurricane kick, I'm going to have to hit him. So I'm going to have to look for ways to hit him. So I could approach him and do this, right? Combo, right? And say if I approach him by walking up, or I could even dash, really, and he's blocking, well, now I throw him, which is going to force him to eventually deal with the throw, which means he eventually has to open himself up, which then leads me to this. And then if I hit this, well, look, now I have a mix-up between throw or hit again, because we're in this position, I'm in advantage, right? I don't need to worry about using my fireball or, using roundhouse or trying to sweep him or whatever if I have a game plan in mind and I'm pursuing that situation. All right. Now, you might be thinking like, hey, wait a minute, if I only try to get myself into one type of situation, wouldn't that make me rather predictable and easy to fight against? The answer to that is yes, but when you play a match, as you progress and become a stronger and stronger player, you will be able to transition between, like multiple game plans or multiple game plans that complement each other, right? You won't always be so doggedly pursuing one type of situation. But as a beginner player or an intermediate player, it's really important to have a game plan like that and go into matches specifically just practicing that and forcing yourself and forcing the opponent to deal with those type of situations so you can get familiar with what could happen when you try to do that thing. All right. That's what I mean by having a game plan. You want to have a goal, a situation you want to be in. Having that goal will help you determine what you want to do to get there, right? It makes your options, like what you're going to do in neutral, a little bit more obvious, easy to follow along with. And if you pursue that goal, not only will you end up like making less mistakes as a player, you'll have less scrambly situations, but you also become way more familiar with those type of situations. And as you advance as a player, then you'll have the ability to switch between them freely and kind of freestyle stuff. But even Evo top 8 players, right, or even like extremely adept players have game plans when they go into a match, right? Like they go, okay, I see Honda, I want to save at least one EX bar so I can punish some specific things. I want to make sure that he doesn't activate his V trigger. I want to avoid the hard kick distance. And if he doesn't have the correct V skill, I really want to abuse my fireball because he's weak to that, right? I want to stay out of a situation where I'm blocking hands on block. And you know, that's the game plan. It's a little bit more advanced. It involves more things. But at the end of the day, you have that. And just thinking in that way is really important. That's something you want to start doing, I would believe. So to wrap that all up, for you specifically, I would say pick one of the things you were doing. Like, I'm either going to zone him or I'm either going to try to put pressure on him, and just go for those and play a bunch of maxes just practicing those, right? So the recommendation here is to create a simple game plan. Pick a situation you want to be in and find ways to get yourself into that situation. Find a few ways, just a few. Practice that game plan specifically and the set of sequences you used to get yourself into that situation. Just pick one or two things you like. It doesn't need to be crazy complicated. It doesn't need to be galactic brain or anything like that. It just needs to be, okay, this is the situation I'm going to be in. These are the sequences that lead me to that situation. This is what I'm going to do, right? Because if you go into every match trying to freestyle, it gets really hard. It's like you're making it harder against yourself. So I would say play 5 matches with a specific game plan and pursue that game plan over everything else. Do not worry about winning. Just try to force the situation you want to be in. I'm going to put in parentheses, does not have to be aggressive or defensive. Just a specific situation. And explore how that plays out. Having a specific goal in mind will help you to organize your strategies and develop a strong understanding of how to deal with specific situations. Okay. Now, I am being a little non-specific because I really want to avoid telling you how to play, because there is no right or wrong way how to play the game, right? I really want to make that, like an important thing is there's no right or wrong way to play the game, right? Like earlier we watched Ken P and we watched Sevens play against Poison players, and Ken P and Sevens play on like the opposite spectrum of the aggressive to defensive scale, right? And both of them had success and weaknesses in their strategy. So it's not like there's one way to play. It's just the way you want. So that's why I'm not being very specific, right? You really have the freedom to choose whatever you want on your own, and the creativity is afforded there. Even though people say it's hard to be creative in Street Fighter V, you still can do that. That's how Street Fighter works, right? So I'm really actually trying to avoid telling you exactly what to do, which leads me to this next point, right? After that general stuff, I would like to talk about some Honda matchup specific things. And this stuff here, you can choose V-Trigger 2 and V-Skill 2 if you like, but V-Trigger 2 is not particularly useful versus Honda outside of just doing damage with it, because it doesn't really offer you a lot of utility versus him, right? V-Trigger 2 is really good at dealing with projectiles, and it's really good at dealing with some specific characters' shenanigans, like Akuma or Ryu or Ken, right? But versus Honda, it doesn't really, he doesn't have a projectile. He doesn't have anything that's like a crazy, weird, over your head type of cross up. I mean, he has butt slam, but it doesn't really work the same way as Akuma's demon flip works, right? He doesn't have anything that V-Trigger 2 really directly counters. So picking V-Trigger 1 would afford you more utility, because you can use it in your offensive sequences, right? You could do something like this, extend your frame traps. You have an enhanced fireball in V-Trigger 1 mode, which will help you zone him like you were doing sometimes. And the most important thing about V-Trigger 1 mode is your uppercut is hella good, right? Your fierce uppercut becomes amazing. So, oh no, I see you. Don't worry. So V-Trigger 1 just, it helps you a little bit more. I would recommend V-Trigger 1 in this matchup because it affords you more advantages, right? It affords you more advantages than V-Trigger 2 would. Now, I'll say the same thing about V-Skill 1 and V-Skill 2. The run, right, is by far the best option for Ken, because it gives you so much that V-Skill 2 does not, right? The run gives you Oki options. It gives you a mobility option. It gives you shenanigans in the same way that V-Skill 2 gives you shenanigans, right? It gives you, like, here's a shenanigan example, right? Right, boom, shenanigan. Or I could do something like this, shenanigan, right? Shenanigans, right? I can do this, and I still get my Oki, right? But if you use V-Skill 2, you don't really get these type of positive situations from V-Skill 2. Most of the time, V-Skill 2 is not really getting you anything because it doesn't have a good pushback on block, and it's just as slow as the run is. So anytime anyone counters V-Skill 2 by interrupting it, they can also interrupt the run in the same way, right? But the advantage of the run is that you get extra close to the opponent. So I would recommend using V-Trigger 1 and V-Skill 1 for literally every single matchup, right? There are times when specifically V-Trigger 2 is handy, but it's not exactly necessary, right? Unfortunately, Ken's V-Trigger and V-Skill system doesn't, it's just not the most amazingly well-designed thing. It's pretty much that 1 and 2 are always better. You can use 2 and 2 if you like, but just know that you're missing out on some opportunities that you would get by using 1 and 1. This is like a heated thing within the Ken sphere. Ken players love Shinryuken, and Ken players love V-Skill 2. But they just ain't good, right? You can use them if you want, but you're just missing out, right? It's kind of like you can think about it the same way as like picking a top tier character, right? Now I will say when you're doing Shinryuken, when you are using Shinryuken, I would think about your conversions a little bit more. Sometimes you're doing Shinryuken, you're always going for the heavy hurricane kick. But it doesn't necessarily always work. It depends on how you hit the opponent. Furthermore, with Shinryuken specifically, you're often attempting to use it as an anti-air, right? You're attempting to use it as an anti-air, and Shinryuken as an anti-air actually just doesn't work. It's not designed to be an anti-air move. It has no anti-air properties. It has anti-projectile and anti-throw properties, right? So it's made to go through projectiles and made to go through throws. When you anti-air someone, let's see, let's try this. Let's just do this, right? Let's just have him do that, right? If I try to Shinryuken him, he's just gonna hit me, right? Sometimes if the opponent makes a mistake, if the opponent made a mistake and they jump from too far away, like right here, Honda would not hit me. You see how he doesn't hit me, right? But my Shinryuken will still suck him in, right? This is not really Shinryuken anti-airing the opponent. This is the opponent just messing up. If you are packing Shinryuken, you want to do uppercut first, right? You want to uppercut them first and then cancel into it, which will give you some combos, right? The most important anti-air combo with Shinryuken is probably medium uppercut, level 3 Shinryuken, medium hurricane kick into EX uppercut, right? So you're probably gonna want to do this, right? This is the most important. I missed it, but you need to do regular uppercut first, right? You need to do regular uppercut first. Depending on the distance, you can even actually mess up, depending on how high they get sucked onto you. So that's just about Shinryuken. It's not an anti-air move. You have to do regular uppercut first. You can use heavy, or you can use medium. You can use light uppercut too, but light uppercut is not as good as medium and heavy because of that. V skill 2, it just affords you less opportunities and less good stuff than V skill 1. V skill 2 has good properties to it, but without getting into like the crazy, 5-hour rant, you just get more from V skill 1. I would recommend practicing. Play several matches using V skill 1 and V trigger 2 or V trigger 1 to get used to using them and how they work. So again, I'm really trying really hard to avoid saying like, oh, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, because there is no right way or there is no wrong way, right? It's just the way that you want. Now we can talk about some specific stuff that was happening. We can talk about butt slam. Butt slam is hard to deal with, but you were letting the opponent get away with it, right? So he would do butt slam, regular, cross up or not. Right? The way to deal with this is really tricky, but not like the end of the world. Right? All you gotta do is just time your uppercut properly. Right? It's hard, but it's possible. Another thing you can do is you can just walk away. Right? If he butt slams you, just block it, walk away. Just try to walk under, walk away. All right? You can try to down fierce, but it's tricky to time, right? Same thing with the uppercut. It's tricky to time, but you can down fierce him. Or you could try, do the uppercut. If he crosses over you, it gets kind of difficult, but you can still do it. Honda was doing hella butt slams. Regular butt slam, EX butt slam. In that match, I think specifically you have to challenge that, right? Even if he does EX, right? He could EX towards you or he could re-EX over you. It's the same deal. It just happens a little bit faster. Because you just have to time your anti-air properly. Right? I can never demonstrate anything when I talk about it. Oh my god, I suck. Oh, I suck. I suck. There we go. There we go. There we go. It's tricky to do, but you have. This is like just something you have to do versus Honda. If he's gonna butt slam you, you have to AA him. There. See, you just have to time the DP. I would go into training mode and just practice this, right? Just let's see. Explore the Honda matchup. Honda, the Ken V versus Honda matchup. Look at Honda versus Ken, or Ken versus Honda replays. Honda replays. And see what the Ken players do and think of ways you can implement those general things into your own gameplay. You don't need to copy people, but you just want to see like, oh, okay, this guy's throwing a lot of fireballs versus Honda. Let me watch another one. And then you see, oh, this guy's throwing a lot of fireballs versus Honda too. Maybe I should think about fireballs. Or, oh, this guy's jumping at Honda a lot. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But you just want to look and see like, oh, what are the other Ken players doing? You know what I mean? So another thing you can do is go into training mode for 10 or 15 minutes and set Honda as the dummy. Record Honda doing various butt slams from various distances and timings. Record Honda doing butt slam that crosses up and butt slam that does not cross up. Practice interrupting and anti-airing the butt slam with uppercut and down and crouching heavy punch. I will also say up here things to recommendations is to talk to Honda players and ask them what other Ken players do that is hard for them to deal with. Right? That's important. That's the number one way you can learn how to like get better at matchups is like, hey man, I see you play Honda. When you play against Ken players, what usually beats you up? You know, like what is the hardest thing for you to deal with? And then when they tell you, you're like, oh, I think I know how that works. And you explore that, figure it out. Right? Okay. Let's see what else. What else we're looking at? We looked at butt slam. Starting with fireball. We looked at this. We looked at this. Staying far away. This has to do with your game plan. When you're retreating a lot, you want to make sure that you have a game plan in mind. You want to make sure that you know what kind of situation you want to be in, right? And you want to you really want to try to not do anything unnecessary, right? Because the opponent is watching you too, right? Like, okay, so you're doing things, you're watching the opponent's response, right? Okay, I moved. This is a stimulus to the opponent. It's going to elicit a certain response. What is that response? You say, okay, when I move, when I do X, opponent does Y. Let me test it again. When I do X, the opponent does Y. How can I abuse that to get my game plan going, right? How can I get in the situation I want to be with that knowledge? You're doing that. The opponent is doing that too. This is what makes the game, right? So the game is like this intricate, like, oh, you know that I know that, you know, I'm going to do this, and I think you want to do this, and you know I think you want to do that, so you're going to do this to make me think that this, you know, there's a whole I know, the read versus read kind of deal, right? And when you get a read on the opponent, it's not like some galactic brain, Evo, Pro, whatever. Literally every player who's ever played this game for more than 5 minutes has had reads on opponents. It's a fundamental thing you need to actually play the game. So you and the opponent are constantly reading each other, right? You're constantly paying attention. It's not like a psychic thing. You're just looking for patterns and responses to patterns, right? While you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're choosing actions that lead towards your game plan, and you don't want to do anything truly unnecessary, because not only can you get yourself into a bad position, but you give the opponent more information than you need to give them, right? So like, let's say you fight against a player, and in the first round versus that player, you let out all your tricks. You do runs on block, you do your cross-up setups, you do, you know, your dirtiest okie setups, you do all that stuff. Well, now they've seen all your tricks, right? Was that all really necessary? You want to win with as minimal things as possible. You want to save your cards, you know what I'm saying? So if you're playing against somebody, for example, this is something you see all the time. People just do this. They just do this. You see this, right? You might think, oh, well, they're playing footsies. Most people are not playing footsies, right? What they're doing is they're just moving back and forth just because they see people do it. This is a useless action. It's not helping you, and it's not making it harder for the opponent, right? The reason you would do this is I'm going to walk into the range that my opponent might want to press a button. I'm going to entice him to press a button. Like, hey, look, I'm getting close. That button is pretty good. I bet you want to press that. And then you go, haha, psych, right? And then he goes, shit, my button whiffed. Now you have a chance to whiff punish him. The next time that interaction happens, he goes, oh, shit, he might walk back. I'm not going to do nothing. Or maybe I'm going to walk forward, too, to mess him up. And that's why you see players do this together, right? You see them, instead of somebody... Okay, like, here's an example, right? If Honda walks up right here, he's in range of my standing medium kick, right? So say I want to do this. I can walk into the range of my standing medium kick really easily if Honda stands still, right? But if Honda walks up and walks back, right, out of the range of my medium kick, I might whiff, right? I don't want to whiff. If I whiff, he could whiff punish me, right? I don't want to whiff. So I'm going to walk forward. But wait a minute. Oh, shit. I walked forward too far. Now I'm in the range of Honda's threatening move. Oh, let me walk back. Right? Oh, this is why players do this. Right? That's why players do that. And when you do that, you want to do it on purpose. Like right here in my example, I'm trying to get into range for the tip of my stand medium kick, or at least kind of close to the tip of my stand medium kick. And Honda... it's like, oh, I'm going to bait that. But if I walk up too far forward while he walks back, now I need to adjust, right? That's why you see that. That's an example of like a useless action that players take all the time. And one of the things that I saw you doing is you would retreat sometimes unnecessarily, right? So sometimes, like, it's good, like, okay, I want to have my fireball range, right? There's nothing wrong with backing up to get a certain spacing you want. But you want to be careful that you're doing that on purpose, right? You don't want to press a button. You don't want to press forward. You don't want to press back, up, down, left, right, punch, kick, unless it's specifically on purpose, right? And the purpose for doing those actions is to lead you into the situation your game plan is about, right? You want to think that way, because sometimes, even though you weren't getting really cornered, I mean, even I do this. Everybody do this. Is you just back up to think. You're like, oh, I need some space. Let me think. Right? Yeah. Right? It's like, oh, fuck, he's close. Give me a second. And you walk away. It's really hard to stay close to the opponent, but that's what you gotta do, right? You need to. I mean, it's Street Fighter, so you're always challenging the opponent. There's not really a moment where you can just say, oh, everything's just cool it, right? It's Street Fighter, right? You have to fight in the streets. That doesn't mean you need to be hyper aggressive, right? But you're always challenging them, and you want to make sure that you don't do stuff unnecessarily because it can lead to a bad habit. Like, for example, I myself have a really bad habit of just backing the hell up, right? Because I never want my opponent to be able to touch me with an attack. So I do this a lot. And eventually I do this 5 or 10 times. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm in a corner now. You know what I mean? In that situation, you want her medium headbutt to be able to be punishable. Right. Let's talk about the Honda headbutts. So, Honda is a charge character, right? So the first thing dealing with headbutt, like regardless of what headbutt she uses and how hard it is to punish on block, because it's really hard to punish. This is not an easy situation to deal with. We need to pay attention to whether or not Honda has charge, right? So we know that it takes just a little bit of time, about half a second. It takes about half a second for Honda to get enough charge to unleash a headbutt, right? But if we see Honda do this, if we see Honda even inch forward, or we see Honda stand up, then we know that Honda doesn't have charge. He let it go. She let it go for that split second. So now we have half a second to do something where we don't have to worry about headbutt, right? Now Honda's headbutt is actually really hard to deal with. The 3 versions are all different, but most Hondas will either use heavy headbutt or hard headbutt, right? So what you were doing after headbutt is you were pressing this, which is not a bad option, right? Not a bad option, because you're taking advantage of the plus frames. The headbutt is minus, but it's not always punishable, right? Like sometimes you can't punish it, right? Maybe if she does the heavy headbutt up close, you could punish it, but if she does medium or light, you're not really getting much. So this medium punch that you were doing is actually a pretty decent option, right? But afterwards, you're not taking advantage of touching the opponent, which leads back to what we were talking about earlier, where when you put on pressure, you're not mixing in tick throws or throw baits, right? So you would get in a big opportunity in this situation, but you would never take advantage of it. You would just touch them on block, and maybe you would do fireball, and that would kind of be the end of it, right? Sometimes in this situation, just like we talked about before, maybe stagger the pressure. Or just walk up and throw. And choose, you want to try to make it tricky. Choose different timings. So maybe I'm just going to walk up and throw you. Or maybe I'm going to walk up this far and press a button. Or maybe I'm going to long walk into a button. There's these, the variance, the tiny different ways you can do it. You can walk long, you can walk short. There's infinite options you could choose of how to perform that. Or if you think they're going to throw, you could walk up and walk back, right? Or you could even take advantage of the minus frames to backdash away and use your fireball. Or you could, press medium punch and throw your fireball. There's nothing wrong with that. You just want to make sure that it gets you into a situation you want to be in, right? So the way you were handling this, the idea was there, but the follow-up after you took your turn wasn't there, right? Excuse me. I mean, honestly, you probably know more about the Honda matchup than me. So there's probably something specific you might be looking for after you touch them with medium punch that you can take advantage of, but it doesn't seem like you were taking advantage of it. You know what I mean? So, not a bad option, honestly. Sometimes you might want to try a different normal too, like light kick. And if your light kick hits, you can, you know, you can punish them with a hurricane kick or an uppercut. If you're really good at the Honda matchup, you'll be able to tell what strength of headbutt it is. Like if you've seen it enough, you probably know, like, oh, that was the light one, that was a medium one, that was a heavy one. You'll be able to tell, and you'll be able to tell if you can punish it or not, right? The second thing with dealing with headbutt is you can make it whiff, right? Like you can make it whiff. Like say they're doing medium headbutt, you can fade away and whiff punish it, right? You say, oh, fading away, but you gotta think like, oh, okay, they're gonna have charge, right? If they're having charge, I see him having charge, headbutt is likely, right? You back up, you wait for it to whiff. You could even neutral jump, right? You could even neutral jump, right? But you want to make sure that you have an idea of when they're gonna come in. You want to, the main way you can have an idea of whether or not headbutt is a threat at this moment is if they have charge or not. That's one of the most important things when you fight a charge character, is paying attention to when they have charge. All right. Oh yeah, it's not easy. I can't do it. I can't even do it in training mode. If you showed me two Honda's headbutts, I wouldn't know. Like, I don't know the matchup like that, right? But it's possible. I mean, Honda players could look at a headbutt and tell you, right? The second thing you can do is this move needs to be spaced, right? The headbutt needs to be spaced to be safe. So you can try to make it whiff, or, right, instead of fading away, you could move forward. Now when you move, is like, okay, this is on predicated on, okay, I don't think they have charge right now. You see them, you're like, oh, I don't think they have charge. You scoot forward. You scoot forward, right? Now the Honda player goes, oh, well, if I headbutt now, it's unsafe. Let me try to choose a different option. Maybe I'll choose a normal attack. Maybe I'll move myself, right? But that gives you some room to work, and it negates headbutt as an option. And if they do happen to headbutt as an option, and you just scoot forward and block, now the headbutt is easily punishable, right? If they do medium headbutt super close, you get to do your big punish, right? Derp. Oh my god. There we go. Well, you know what I mean, right? Like, see, if I do this, I approach Honda like this, Honda's probably more likely to press a button. If I get Honda pressing a button, I can counter poke him, right? I can try to interrupt him or go first and stuff his button, right? Once I get Honda pressing buttons, I can, like, if I get Honda pressing buttons when I do this, I can do this and then back up. This is extremely subtle movement to see, but you can do that, and then, hey, look, I can play footsies and then whiff punish them, right? The basics. Same deal. You gotta give yourself room to work, right? And again, the main way I would recommend getting used to doing that is experimenting with the relationship between tick throw, staggered pressure, and throw bait, right? So just pretty much whenever you touch the opponent, try to either walk up to them and tick throw them, or stagger pressure them, and depending on how you see they deal with it, like if they press a button, you can continue to stagger pressure, you can back up and try to whiff punish, or if they start throwing, you can continue to stagger pressure, or you could throw bait, right? If they just block, you could just keep stagger pressuring them, or you could throw them, right? Just experimenting with offense based around that can get you familiar with the type of situation, getting room to work, getting yourself information to work with. Let's see, what else? Talk about headbutt, butt slam, V trigger. We talked about mashing, block strings ending with fireball. We talked about the opponent jumping. Okay, so this is the last thing. It's probably the most straightforward. You're doing a pretty decent job of putting yourself in a position where fireball is safe, right? Of course, Honda could use EX headbutt to go through fireball. Honda could preemptively jump, or Honda could super, right? But you're out here. What are the options from out here, right? If you throw the fireball out here, pretty much the only thing you need to be worried about is if they jump at you, right? Pretty much, right? From the moment the fireball is out till the moment the fireball touches them, it's not a very long amount of time, maybe a second and a half. But all you need to think about during that time is if they're going to jump, because you put yourself into this position, right? If you put yourself into this position, you're saying, okay, the most viable options for my opponent here are probably to deal with the fireball. I throw the fireball. Now all I got to basically do is maybe buffer DP, right? If they jump, I press the button. If they don't, whatever. If they advance after they block the fireball, maybe I'll throw another one. Maybe I'll readjust my position, right? You were doing pretty good, but Honda was getting away with jumping over your fireballs, and your DP just wouldn't be there. And that's not because you need to really react, or like your reactions are slow, or because you don't know if they're going to jump or not. You have time, right? You know what the situation, the options of this situation are. So I would say try to be a little bit more conscious of like, okay, if I'm right here, he can't touch me with a normal. He can't headbutt me because I'm throwing my fireball. He can't do anything, right? So all I got to do is worry about jump, right? That's not an easy thing to do, but you just got to be conscious of it, right? Like, okay, I put myself here. My strongest options here are this and this, and everything else is kind of a non-option. I think that covers most things that I noticed. Now, I didn't go over a lot of matchup specific stuff because I was just looking at general stuff in the replay. If there was either less replays, or if I were you, I would go actually over each round, and I would do that process again, but for each round. But that was like I think there were some okay things. A lot of it is strategic and theoretical, right? I hope that made sense. Are there like any questions or anything specific you want to work together on? Like, because we're learning together, right? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just recommending stuff, right? Is there anything specific you can think of, or any questions you would like to ask? Anything I missed, right? Let's see. Did we go over everything? Yeah. Ken is retreating a lot. Okay. General notes. Okay.
What's wrong? Want me to slap you to give you more energy?
All right. Well, if you don't have any questions, I think that covers it, to the best of my ability, at least. Scared of getting close to Honda is because you feel like her buttons are better. Okay. So the first question, the first thing is, do you even want to be close? Does your game plan involve being close? Because you actually don't need to be close. You can win the match from over here, right? And then the second thing is when you are close to Honda, right? You got to think about Honda's actual options, right? One of the things I saw you were doing is you weren't really using frame traps again, right? So you would just like let your pressure go, and then the opponent would press something. You wouldn't try to frame trap them with it. You know what I mean? So I would look at Honda's buttons actually, or just ask, right? Just ask. So say, go into training mode and find the most common Honda buttons you see. See and check if they are plus or minus on block. Pressure in the corner. Well, the thing about pressure is, really what I'm getting at overall is that when you apply pressure to the opponent, you're threatening a certain option, right? So say, for example, if you press a button at them, you're threatening hitting them out of something, right? If you walk up towards them, you're threatening them with a throw, right? And you can use that to your advantage to exploit their response, right? And that is how you open someone up. So to optimally pressure someone really means that you're finding a way to can open them. If you're just touching them on block and they're blocking, you're not really putting on pressure. They're just blocking and they're like, okay, the block string is done. Now I'm gonna take my turn, right? You kind of need to cleverly force them to try to deal with an option that you can counter, or you need to take advantage of them, whatever they're doing, to have your pressure have been successful. You know what I mean? A lot of the times, now again, I didn't watch the replays in super specific detail because there was 10 of them, but a lot of the times when you were in the corner, it was similar to what you were doing in the middle of the screen, which didn't really cash out, right? So is it optimal pressure? I'm not necessarily sure, right? Because to be optimal, you need to get some sort of damage off of it, right? Another thing I noticed with the replays is you guys were in the middle of the screen a lot. Like a lot. Most of the games took place in the middle of the screen. So really neither of you was like either pinning the opponent down in the corner or really holding them there and abusing the corner super a lot. So for that, I'm not sure. In regards to throws, she just texts all the time. Well, again, that's something you could work with, right? You can enhance your pressure even anywhere on the screen by trying to encourage her to throw. Like you already know, like the situation she might throw in. Try to think about, okay, well, if I do this, how can I make her throw here, right? Or something like that. She tends to hit a crap ton of buttons when she's not super pressured. You'd have to go in and find like, okay, what button is getting pressed? Can I whiff punish this button? Is this button really slow? Can I just counter poke or frame trap this button, right? I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think that exploring staggered pressure will really help you open up people and give you a stronger understanding of how you can actually stop that. Like the main things you're saying, like, oh, these are the main problems here. I think it's not gonna. I mean, of course, it's not gonna be like an overnight thing, but I think that is like the solution. The reason I'm scared of Honda's buttons are just better. Maybe not, right? Like, I think as far as when you go to like try to figure out the matchup or like figure out how to fight against a player, you don't really want to start thinking like, okay, this character just wins, right? You just want to say, okay, how can I deal with this, right? It's not exactly super on point to what we're talking about, but there's a really good video. There's two good videos I would recommend. Let me look them up right now, actually. We want to look up problem solving with frame data from press button to win. And we want to look up Juicebox footsies. Okay, the Juicebox footsies video is extremely long, but it's very, very good. And there's another one from press button to win that will probably help a lot. we want to look up Think Don't Mash Part 1. So I'm gonna recommend watching these 3 YouTube videos. Oops. Sorry. I don't know. I don't know how to work these controls.
What's wrong? Want me to slap it and give you more energy?
Honda. Honda's being mean to me, man. Oh my god. I'm gonna make this text smaller in a second.
What's wrong? Want me to slap it and give you more energy?
Alright. Now let's make this text smaller. Okay. Okay.
What's wrong? Want me to slap it and give you more energy?
All right, these are the notes. The first part is a little bit of a mess, but I hope that the recommendation and practice section. Yeah. What else? Anything else? I think would have to be more matchup specific, or I'd have to look at each replay slowly.
What's wrong? Want me to slap it and give you more energy?
But yeah, I hope that made sense. That's really all I've got on that without going over it, going into a thing and seeing them again. Let me put down matches in the middle screen line.
What's wrong? Want me to slap it and give you more energy?
Okay. All right, I'm saving this. Saving this. All right, so this here, I'm going to upload this into the replay review section of the Discord server. So let me just shamelessly plug exclamation Discord. And now a lot of this is strategic and theoretical, right? So, like I said before, I don't really want to tell you like, oh, do this, because again, there's no right or wrong way to play. Right? You can be aggressive, you can be defensive, or you can be any kind of in between. It's kind of really all about what you want, right? So I think these things will help. And the recommendations and practice section, I think these are practical things that you can go about doing, right? Like you can go into training mode 5-10 minutes, try to do inputs really slow, don't hit the buttons multiple times, right? Find a sequence of normals on block that you like. Find ways to approach the opponent after doing that block string. See how you can throw them. If you can stagger into another normal, how you can frame trap with that block string. Consider what point in the block string you can move forward, right? So you could do jab, strong, walk, or you could do jab, walk. You could do jab, jab, or you could do jab, walk, jab, or you could do jab, walk, strong, right? There's a lot you can do for your stagger pressure. It's really, the sky is the limit there. Play 5 matches with a specific game plan and pursue that game plan over everything else, right? So you say, okay, I'm going to land heavy hurricane kick after target combo 1, right? And that's all you're worried about. You're not worried about winning or losing. You're just trying to figure out how to do that. Or you're going to say, oh, I'm going to fireball and uppercut, right? Not worried about winning, not worried about losing, just trying to do that. Not worried about following Oki. You know, you're not practicing to optimize your chances of winning. You're practicing to improve your skills, right? Because the result of you winning or losing is all those little things added together. So, you know, just like you go to the gym, you got to put in reps, or you go to the track, you got to run around the track so many times to get faster and faster. Same deal here. Play several matches using V-Skill 1 and V-Trigger 2 just to get used to them. You can use VT2 and VS2 if you like, but it's important to know, you know, just explore a character, right? go into training mode for 10 or 15 minutes. Set Honda as a dummy and record him doing different types of butt slams at different distances and different timings. Try to get him to do the cross-up one. Try to get him to do the one that stays in front. You can even ask, because you know a Honda player, you can ask, like, well, when do you want to do butt slam? What kind of butt slam? And you're probably familiar, like, oh, I always see butt slam here. Maybe I could try to do this. Like, oh, Honda always does medium punch something butt slam or whatever, right? You could set those situations for yourself and just try to interrupt them with down fierce or DP. And then the final thing to like go into training mode and pick Honda and look at the most common buttons and see what they are on block. Take note of the pushback and situation you end up in after blocking or even getting hit by the button, right? Because you're saying, oh, if I'm approaching Honda, I don't know what to do. Well, really, you can't just hit infinite buttons, right? Eventually the button will whiff, or eventually the button's going to push you far away enough to where the next one will whiff, or somebody's going to have to move. If Honda moves towards you, now you can intercept him. Low medium kick, low standing medium punch, standing medium kick, whatever. Or you can move forward too. And if Honda moves away, now you have something to work with. Like, oh, I can fireball, or oh, Honda sits still. Maybe I could suddenly dash because he's always sitting still there. I could take advantage of that. Just explore Honda's buttons. Look at the situations after the buttons. Ask Honda players about what buttons they want to be hitting and where. See how you can take advantage of that. Right? Now, with punishing in the foozies is like extra hard in Street Fighter V. It's like this game is footsies on hard mode, but it's doable. All right, I'm gonna save this. We're gonna save this as save as the desktop. Lima _ Hilton vs Chobo Blanka replay review. Yo, what's up, Lee13? I see you, man. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate that, man. We're learning together out here, right? We're learning together out here. What's today's date? Today is what is it? 10/08/20. Boom. Okay, so I'm gonna upload this, and this VOD. Oh yeah, 28. Derp. This VOD. This section, I'm gonna cut this out. It might not be tonight, maybe tomorrow, or the next day, but I'm gonna cut this out, upload it to YouTube, and then in the replay review channel of the Discord, this video will also be up in case you wanted to look back and just be like, the fuck did that guy say about me? What he say about me? You know what I mean? In case you want to look it back up. I really hope that helped. I'm gonna put the 3 videos I recommended in the chat too. Also, if anybody wants to click on those, these guys, the people who made these videos, are also like really cool, good creators. So maybe check them out too. Particularly Juicebox plays a lot of KOF now, but you know, 2D fighting game stuff. Recommend those 3 videos to watch as well. Alright, I think that's it. I have to redo the date on the Word document real quick. Where's the Word document? Here we go. 28. Control save. Alright, so this is going to go into replay review. Video will come in soon. I will @ you. There we go. Alright. I think that's... honestly, that's all we got time for today. Oop. The music! I accidentally stopped the music. Let's play this shit again. Yeah, this is what we do here, or what I do here. Is we just sit here and pretend to be big brain and try to help everybody out. I will say that it doesn't matter if you're like a super brand new player, an intermediate player, or a super godlike evolution champion, or if you've been stuck in a certain skill level for forever or whatever. Everybody, when we review replays and stuff here, we just like work together on it. We learn together. And I do talk about a lot of specific stuff. I play Ken, but I can also look at other characters. I talk a lot about like strategic general stuff. I feel like that's my strong suit. Anyway, thanks for the replays. Really appreciate it. We're a little bit over time, right? Have a tolerable tomorrow. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, y'all. If you would, please consider sticking around so we can raid somebody.